The massive council chamber orbited the gas giant Tremora, its windows revealing swirls of purple and gold in the planet below. 57 species gathered today, their representatives seated according to alliance and biology, those requiring methane atmospheres in sealed chambers to the east, water breathers in liquid tanks to the west. Admiral Tay stood motionless as the holographic display activated. His gray uniform contrasted sharply with his blue skin as he prepared to deliver the news no one wanted to hear. Kalar Prime has fallen, he said simply. The chamber erupted in voices. A small insect-like delegate chittered loudly. Impossible. They had planetary shields. Admiral Tay pressed a button on his wrist device. The hologram shifted to show a once beautiful world of sprawling cities and vast oceans. Then came the attack. Blue energy weapons that seemed to pull water from the very air. The oceans rose impossibly, cities drowned, and the blue energy spread like a plague. Within hours, a civilization of billions had vanished. This is the third system lost to hydro weapons this cycle. Admiral Tay continued. The Kalarians had our strongest defenses. It made no difference. Representative Han, an older woman with silver hair and ceremonial face markings, denoting her high status among the Terulian people, leaned forward. For those unfamiliar with these weapons, please explain what we're facing. Science Director's son, a thin man with quick movements, stepped forward. He activated a secondary display showing molecular structures. Hydro weapons were theoretical. Until 5 years ago, he explained. They target water molecules, H2O, and destabilize them at the quantum level. This releases energy and creates a cascading reaction. For worlds with oceans or species with high water content in their bodies. He paused. The results are catastrophic. An amphibious delegate bubbled anxiously in her tank. My people are 60% water. You're describing our extinction. Who possesses these weapons? Asked Counselor Doe, his heavy brow furrowed. Admiral Tay's face darkened. We don't know. Each attack comes from different ships with different signatures. We suspect someone is supplying this technology to multiple groups. The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. Someone was arming the galaxy with weapons of mass destruction that specifically targeted water. The foundation of most carbon-based life. Is there any defense? Asked Representative Han. Director Sun shook his head. Currently, no. The reaction happens at the molecular level. Once it starts, it's unstoppable. A communication officer rushed into the chamber and whispered to Admiral Tay. His eyes widened slightly. The first real emotion he had shown. We have received a message, Admiral Tay announced. A new species requests permission to join our coalition. They call themselves humans from a planet called Earth. The chamber's mood shifted from despair to curiosity. New species were rare, especially those advanced enough for interstellar travel. Director Sun quickly pulled up information on his tablet. Earth, primarily water-covered planet. Humans are carbon-based, bipedal. Interesting, their bodies contain approximately 60% water. They've chosen a dangerous time to join galactic society, said Representative Han. With these hydro weapons targeting water-based life. Admiral Tay studied the approaching ship's specifications on his display. It was small by coalition standards, clearly their first true interstellar vessel. They've been monitoring our communications for decades, but have only now developed the technology to reach us. What could they possibly offer in this crisis? Asked Counselor Doe dismissively. They're newcomers with limited technology. Director Sun looked thoughtful. Sometimes fresh perspectives see solutions veterans miss. The communication screen activated, showing the interior of the Earthship. A woman with calm eyes stood at the center, wearing a blue uniform with silver insignia. This is Captain G. of Earth Vessel Discovery. We request permission to dock. Admiral Tay straightened. Permission granted, Captain. Welcome to Starpoint Alpha. As the transmission ended, Representative Han spoke quietly. These humans know nothing of the terror that awaits them. Should we even allow them into this conflict? They might be destroyed simply by association with us. We have no choice, Admiral Tay replied. The hydro weapons don't discriminate. If these weapons continue to spread, all water-based life in the galaxy faces extinction, including humanity. Better they know the threat now than face it unprepared. The council chamber darkened as Admiral Tay displayed the projected path of the next likely hydro weapon attack. No one noticed the small blue droplet that formed and then disappeared on the projection table, as if the very mention of the weapons had somehow summoned their essence into the room. Captain G felt her heart race as the Earthship Discovery docked with Starpoint Alpha. Through the viewport, she could see the massive space station, a wheel-shaped structure with spokes extending in all directions, housing representatives from across the galaxy. This moment would go down in human history. Nervous? Asked Science Officer Day, standing at her side. His dark eyes studied the station with intense curiosity. Wouldn't you be? G replied with a small smile. We're the first humans most of these species will ever meet. The airlock cycled with a hiss. When the doors slid open, G was hit with a wave of unfamiliar smells, metallic, organic, and something like cinnamon but sharper. A group of aliens waited in the reception area, led by a tall, blue-skinned male with silver markings on his face. Captain G, the blue alien said in perfect English. I am Admiral Tay of the Coalition Fleet. This is Director Sun and Representative Han. Welcome to Starpoint Alpha. G bowed slightly. Thank you for receiving us. This is my Science Officer Day and my Security Chief Mun. As they walked through the station corridors, humans and aliens alike stared at each other with barely concealed fascination. Floating jellyfish-like creatures drifted overhead. Small reptilian beings scurried past carrying data tablets. A massive creature that seemed made entirely of rock nodded respectfully as the group passed. Your station is remarkable, Day said, trying not to gawk at a being that appeared to be made of pure light. It was built 300 years ago, Director Sun explained. Before the current crisis. G noted the change in tone. We've intercepted fragments of your communications. Something about weapons that target water? The aliens exchanged glances. We should discuss this privately, Admiral Tay said, leading them into a large circular room with a table in the center. Once sealed inside, Admiral Tay activated a holographic display. The humans watched in silent horror as an entire world drowned, blue energy spreading across oceans and landmasses alike. This was Kalar Prime 3 weeks ago, Representative Han said softly. 8 billion souls lost in less than a day. These weapons, we call them hydro weapons, convert water molecules into destructive energy, Director Sun explained. The reaction spreads exponentially. For water-based life forms like your species and mine, there is no defense. G felt a chill run down her spine. Who created these weapons? We don't know, Admiral Tay admitted. They appeared 5 years ago. 3 civilizations have already fallen. We believe someone is supplying different factions with this technology. Security. Chief Mun stepped forward, his muscular frame tense. Why tell us this now? Earth has barely achieved interstellar travel. We can't possibly help with such advanced weapons. Because Earth will be targeted eventually, Representative Han said gently. All water worlds will. We believe you deserve to know the truth. Director Sun moved to a sealed container in the corner of the room. This is a small component from a captured hydro weapon. It's contained in a quantum field for safety. The device looked deceptively simple, a crystal cylinder filled with swirling blue liquid that pulsed with inner light. May I examine it? G asked. Admiral Tay looked alarmed. Not without protective gear. Even this small sample could trigger a reaction in a water-based body like yours. G glanced at Day, who nodded slightly. With respect, Admiral, G said, we'd like to test something. Our scientists have a theory about water molecular stability in human physiology. Before anyone could object, G reached for the container and deactivated the quantum field. Stop! Director Sun cried out, backing away. The room fell silent as G carefully lifted the hydro component. The blue liquid inside pulsed as if recognizing her touch, but nothing catastrophic happened. No reaction began. No energy cascade started. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Tay. G handed the component to Day, who examined it closely. "The molecular structure is fascinating," he said. "It's trying to interact with the water in my cells, but something's blocking it." Representative Han stared in wonder. "In all our encounters with these weapons, no water-based species has survived direct contact." G placed the component back in its container. "Maybe that's why we're here. On Earth, we have a saying. Sometimes the solution arrives at exactly the right moment." Admiral Tay's expression changed from shock to something like hope. "The Council must see this immediately." As they left the room, G caught Moon's concerned glance. "What did we just volunteer for?" he whispered. "I'm not sure," G replied honestly. "But I think we just became very important to the galaxy." Behind them, unnoticed, the blue liquid in the container pulsed faster, as if excited by the encounter with these strange new beings who could touch it without dying. The council chamber buzzed with excitement as 57 species gathered to witness the impossible. At the center stood Science Officer Day, calmly holding the hydro weapon component that had killed billions. The blue liquid inside the crystal container swirled gently, almost peacefully in his hands. "Our scans are complete," announced Director Sun, his fingers dancing across the holographic display. "The human body contains between 58 and 65% water, yet the hydro energy doesn't trigger the cascade reaction." Representative Han leaned forward in her seat. "How is this possible? Our best scientists have studied these weapons for years." Day placed the component on the examination table. "We believe it's related to Earth's unique evolutionary path. Our planet has gone through multiple extinction events that forced life to adapt to rapidly changing conditions." Captain G stepped forward, her voice clear and steady. "Earth water contains unique mineral compositions. Our bodies evolved with these minerals integrated into our cellular structure." The chamber filled with murmurs as the aliens processed this information. A tall, thin alien with translucent skin raised a hand. "Could your immunity be transferred to other species?" "We're not sure yet," Day admitted. "But we have another theory to test." He nodded to Lieutenant Rin, who stepped forward, carrying a small vial of clear liquid. The young officer's hands trembled slightly, betraying his nervousness despite his calm expression. "What is that?" Admiral Tay asked sharply. "Diluted hydro-weapon fluid," Captain G explained. "We've processed it through a filtration system of our design." Gasps echoed through the chamber. A reptilian delegate hissed in alarm. "You deliberately extracted the weapon material?" Day nodded. "Under controlled conditions, yes." Lieutenant Rin uncapped the vial. The council members watched in horror as he raised it to his lips. "Stop him!" shouted an amphibious delegate, bubbling frantically in her tank. But it was too late. Rin swallowed the liquid in one gulp. The chamber fell silent. All eyes focused on the human, waiting for him to collapse or dissolve or burst into blue flame. Instead, Rin simply shrugged. "Tastes like the mineral water from my grandmother's village," he said. "A bit metallic." Director Sun rushed forward, with scanning equipment. "His cellular structure is unchanged. If anything, his hydration levels have improved." "Impossible," whispered Admiral Tay. Captain G smiled. "Not impossible, just unexpected." In the medical lab adjacent to the council chamber, the alien scientists crowded around displays showing human cellular structure. Representative Han watched, in fascination as the scans revealed human cells interacting with the hydro weapon material. "It's not fighting the hydro energy," explained Day. "It's absorbing it, integrating it into normal cellular functions." An alien scientist with 4 arms pointed to a simulation. "Look here. When the hydro energy contacts human cells, the destructive cascade is redirected into your body's existing water pathways. Like a river changing course instead of flooding," Captain G suggested. "Exactly," the scientist agreed. Admiral Tay paced the room, his military mind already seeing possibilities. "Could humans use this immunity offensively? Could you handle the actual weapons, not just components? Lieutenant Rin, still showing no ill effects from drinking the hydro fluid, nodded. We believe so. The question is, can we modify the weapons themselves? Director Sun looked thoughtful. The weapons were designed to be unstoppable. No one considered a species that could absorb the energy. Who created these weapons? Day asked. Understanding their original purpose might help us repurpose them. The aliens exchanged glances. Finally, Representative Han spoke. There are stories of an ancient race called the Voidborn. They supposedly created weapons that could reshape planets using their fundamental elements. Legends, scoffed Admiral. What matters is the present threat. Captain G studied the hydro component, now safely back in its container. These weapons are too elegant for simple destruction. Every weapon is designed with a purpose beyond just killing. Back in the human quarters that evening, the Earth team gathered to discuss their findings. The room was sparse but comfortable, with adjustable gravity and lighting to match Earth conditions. They're afraid of us now, Lieutenant Rin said, looking out the viewport at the stars. I saw it in their eyes when I drank that fluid. Fear and hope, corrected Captain G. We represent something they never expected. A solution. Day pulled up his notes on a tablet. The Coalition has recovered 3 intact hydro weapons. They've granted us access to study them tomorrow. And if we can control them? Asked Rin. Captain G stared at her reflection in the viewport glass. Then humanity just became the most important species in the galaxy. Outside their quarters, unseen, Admiral Tay listened carefully. He touched the communication device on his wrist. Prepare a strike team, he whispered. If these humans can control the hydro weapons, we need to ensure they remain our allies, or they don't leave this station alive. 3 weeks after the discovery of human immunity to hydro weapons, the Coalition war room hummed with activity. Maps and tactical displays covered the walls, showing the movements of Scorched Dominion ships, the latest group to acquire the deadly weapons. Lieutenant Rin adjusted the hydro converter strapped to his forearm. The device, created by combining human physiological data with Coalition technology, glowed faintly blue. 5 other humans from the Discovery crew wore similar devices. The converters will channel the hydro energy through your bodies without harm, explained Day, checking each device. In theory, you can redirect the energy back at the enemy. Captain G studied the holographic display of their target, a massive Scorch warship that had attacked 2 Coalition outposts last week. In theory, she repeated quietly. Admiral Tay entered the room, his blue skin looking paler than usual. The Council has approved Operation Watershed. Your team will board the Scorch vessel and capture their weapons cache. If possible, determine their supplier. And if not possible? Asked Rin. Admiral Tay's expression hardened. Destroy the ship. The human team boarded a small stealth vessel specially designed for the mission. As they prepared for departure, Representative Han approached Captain G. The Council is divided about this mission, she said softly. Some believe we're placing too much faith in untested human abilities. G checked her equipment one final time. And what do you believe? Han smiled faintly. I believe the universe provides answers when they're most needed. The journey to the Scorch warship took 11 hours through hyperspace. The team sat quietly, each lost in their own thoughts. They had trained extensively with the hydro converters, but no simulation could prepare them for the real thing. 2 minutes to exit point, announced the pilot, a Coalition officer named Yoon. Stealth systems engaged. Their ship emerged from hyperspace behind a small moon, hiding them from the Scorch warship's sensors. The enemy vessel hung in space like a massive predator, all sharp angles and weapon ports with engines glowing ominously red. Approaching docking port, whispered Yun as they silently glided toward the larger ship. Their shields have a rotation pattern. We'll slip through in 3, 2, 1. A soft thud indicated successful attachment to the hull. The team rose from their seats, faces serious as they checked each other's equipment one last time. Remember, said Captain G, Our primary goal is intelligence. We need to know where these weapons are coming from. The airlock cycled open. Lieutenant, Rin took point, stepping carefully into the dimly lit corridor of the Scorch vessel. The interior was hot and dry, uncomfortable for humans but perfect for the reptilian Scorch species. Life signs? Whispered Day, consulting his scanner. Minimal. Crew, Rin replied. Most are gathered in the command center. The team moved silently through the ship, guided by schematics provided by Coalition intelligence. They passed crew quarters and storage areas, always alert for patrols. At a junction, Rin held up his hand, signaling everyone to stop. Around the corner, voices approached, the clicking, hissing language of the Scorch. 2 guards, Rin mouthed silently. Captain G nodded and tapped her hydro-converter, activating it. Blue energy swirled around her hand. As the guards turned the corner, G stepped forward and released a pulse of blue energy. The guards froze, their eyes widening in recognition of the weapon they feared. But the energy didn't harm them. Instead, it wrapped around them like a net, holding them immobile. How did you do that? Day asked, amazed. I didn't try to weaponize it, G explained. I just asked it to hold them. They continued deeper into the ship until they reached a sealed door marked with warning symbols. The weapons cache, Day confirmed, scanning through the door. And something else. Energy readings unlike anything I've seen. Rin placed a small device on the door panel. It beeped softly as it bypassed the security system. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, dozens of hydro weapons hung in specialized racks. But at the center of the room stood something unexpected, a tall pillar, covered in glowing symbols, clearly of different design than the Scorch technology around it. That's not Scorch, whispered Captain G, approaching the pillar carefully. It's older, much older. Before they could examine it further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Red emergency lights flashed in the corridor outside. We've been detected, Rin said, drawing his weapon. The door to the weapons cache slammed shut. Through the small window they could see Scorch troops gathering, pointing toward the humans. They looked scared, Day observed. Not angry, terrified. A voice came over. The ship's communication system translated into broken Coalition standard. Humans, hissed the voice. How do you command the water death? Who sent you? Captain G approached the door window, making herself visible to the Scorch commander. We came to ask you the same question, she replied calmly. Where did you get these weapons? The Scorch commander stepped forward, his scaled face visible through the window. They came from the deep void, he said, from those who test all life. And you have passed their test. The ancient Voidborn facility hung suspended in the darkness of deep space, far from any star system. Its curved walls gleamed with an inner light that pulsed in rhythm like a heartbeat. 6 ships surrounded it, 5 Coalition vessels and the Earthship Discovery. Captain G stood before the massive entrance, her hydro-converter glowing brightly on her forearm. Behind her waited Admiral Tay, Representative Han, Director Sun, and the human team. The Scorch commander was telling the truth, Day said quietly. These weapons weren't created for destruction. They were a test. After their confrontation on the Scorch warship, an unexpected event had changed everything. The central pillar in the weapons cache had activated when Captain G approached it. Ancient symbols transformed into star coordinates, leading them here to this abandoned structure that had drifted for millennia. Are we certain it's safe to enter? Admiral Tay asked, eyeing the doorway with suspicion. G touched her converter to the wall. The blue energy flowed from her arm into the structure. In response, the door slid open silently. It recognizes us, she said. Or rather, it recognizes what we can do with water. They stepped inside, their footsteps echoing in the vast chamber. The walls were covered with flowing symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. In the center stood a platform with a pool of blue liquid, the same substance found in the hydro weapons. This is incredible, whispered Director Sun, scanning everything with his devices. This facility is over 20,000 years old, yet still perfectly functional. Day approached the central pool cautiously. The symbols are similar to those on the pillar from the escort ship. I think I can translate some of it. As Day worked on the translations, Lieutenant Rin and his team explored the chamber, discovering side rooms filled with technology beyond even the Coalition's understanding. "Captain," called Rin from one of the rooms, "you need to see this." Inside, they found thousands of small crystal containers, each holding a different colored liquid. On the wall, a map of the galaxy, with certain planets marked with glowing dots. "Test. Subjects," realized Admiral Tay. They were testing different species. Representative Han approached the map. "All the planets with hydro-weapon attacks are marked here. This wasn't random. It was deliberate." Hours passed as they studied the facility. Finally, Day stepped back from the central control system, his eyes wide with understanding. "I've translated enough to understand their purpose," he announced. "The Voidborn weren't trying to destroy water-based life. They were searching for a species that could master it." Captain G joined him at the controls. "What do you mean?" "The hydro weapons were designed to transform, not destroy," explained Day. "But only a species with the right biological connection to water could control the transformation process. The weapons killed other species because they couldn't complete the circuit." Director Sun looked skeptical. "Why test species this way? Why not just communicate?" "Because they needed to be certain," said Day. "The technology they left behind can transform entire worlds, create water where none exists, purify poisoned oceans, even terraform dead planets. In the wrong hands, it could also destroy everything." Admiral Tay paced the chamber. "So these Voidborn created a filter, a test no species could fake or bypass. Either you have the biological compatibility, or you don't." "And humans passed," said Representative Han softly. Captain G studied the central pool of blue liquid. "What happens now?" Day pointed to a series of symbols above the pool. "According to this, we need to fully activate the system. It requires biological integration with a compatible species." "Meaning what exactly?" asked Admiral Tay. Day looked at Captain G. "Someone needs to enter the pool." Silence fell over the chamber. Finally, G stepped forward. "I'll do it." "G, no," protested Rin. "We don't know what will happen." "We know exactly what will happen," she replied calmly. "This is what everything has been leading to." Before anyone could stop her, Captain G stepped onto the platform and into the blue liquid. It rose around her, covering her completely for a moment before receding. When it pulled back, G remained standing, her skin glowing faintly blue. "Can you hear me?" Admiral Tay called out anxiously. G turned to face them, her eyes now shimmering with the same blue energy as the pool. "I can hear you. I can hear everything." She raised her hands, and throughout the chamber, dormant systems hummed to life. On the galactic map, new pathways of light appeared, connecting stars and planets in a complex web. "I understand now," G said, her voice echoing strangely. "The Voidborn left because they found no species ready to continue their work. They left these tests hoping someone would eventually evolve the capacity." "What work?" asked Representative. "Han balance," G replied. "Water is life but also destruction. They mastered the balance and left this legacy for whoever could do the same." She stepped out of the pool, the blue glow fading from her skin but remaining in her eyes. "The hydro weapons were never weapons at all," she explained. "They're tools, keys, to unlock something greater." Across the galaxy, on planets devastated by hydro attacks, something impossible began to happen. The destructive blue energy reversed its course, pulling scattered molecules back together, restoring what was broken. On Starpoint Alpha, the Council watched in awe as reports came in from everywhere. Oceans reformed, ruins rebuilt themselves. The dead did not return, but life began anew. Admiral Tay turned to Captain G as they watched the miracle unfold on the view screens. "Your people have changed everything." G shook her head, her blue eyes gleaming. "We didn't change anything. We just took a sip when everyone else was afraid to drink."